Hi everyone, I'm Barry Skillington. I am the Chief Commercial Officer with Atlantic Clinical Trials here in Cork and Chicago. Welcome back to Straight Talking Science, episode number 8, where we're talking about medical misinformation. So, medical misinformation, debunked mysteries, myths, etc. I'm delighted to be joined by Dr. Nontokozo Yusuff. She is a trained GP with over 15 years of experience in both Africa, South Africa, and here in Ireland. She's worked in private practice for many years. She's worked in pharmaceutical research for many years. And now she works with Atlantia in clinical research. So welcome,
Thank
Nontokozo.
you. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
I think like working in clinical research, obviously, most of what we do is gathering and like analyzing evidence.
Yeah, yeah.
So medical misinformation is an important topic.
It is an important topic. And so we've mentioned many times in the series of these talks about sources of information and where to get it. So we're going to go into some, like how to demystify medicine, because medicine is very important and it's very personal, and everybody, you have to assess it's your own body. So I want to just start off with like this topic matters because um, we pick up bits and pieces along the way, pains, aches, and what to listen to, what not to listen to. So maybe we'll get into some of the, into the weeds a bit on who should we listen to and what is credible, right? So I have made some notes. So if you see me looking, I'm just looking at my notes. So we're going to define what is misinformation. Like, so loosely, what would you say is misinformation in terms of in the modern world where we have a lot of social media now and we have a lot of digital?
Okay, so when it comes to health, misinformation really is any information that's not really accurate,
Mm.
that is misleading, that sort of exaggerates the claims,
Yeah.
like health claims. So that would be what misinformation is, and it sort of sits on a spectrum as well.
Mm.
So on the one end, you have things that are relatively harmless, that like myths that we all grew up with. I don't know about you, but like we've heard things like if you swallow gum,
Yeah.
it will stay in your stomach and your intestines or your insides will stick together. That's what parents used to tell us when we
That's
were
not
growing
true.
up. No, that's not true. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you have more serious things like obviously people can then make health decisions based on misinformation.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then they delay getting treatment for conditions that are really, where treatment is effective and is available.
Yes.
So then that's the other end of the spectrum. So it's quite important that people know what it is and what to look out for.
Right. Right. Okay. So these, I suppose, we call them old wives' tales or
Mm.
old wives' cures here, and I'm sure they're everywhere across the world, and everyone's got their own very distinct set. Um, like warts is what I remember. If you had a wart and you cut a potato, rub half a potato on the wart and
Hmm.
bury it in the garden, your wart will go away. I mean, seriously, that has to be true.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
That's all I can say. That's very interesting. The thing is, though, with things like that, we need the evidence, clinical
Yeah.
evidence. So anecdotes, personal stories, they're all good. It's very reassuring to hear somebody tell you, okay, I've used this, this worked for me.
Yeah.
But for health decisions, you need a bit more than that.
Yeah.
It would be like if we use cars, for example, if somebody told you this car is safe, or like a few people told you this car is safe, and you can use it even if you've involved in an accident, you'll be fine. Things like that. That's good. It's reassuring.
Mm.
But obviously, on the other end, if you know that there have been crash tests that have been performed, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's more
Right.
yeah
Which is kind of what
reassuring.
we do.
Yeah.
For clarity, I mean, clinical trials, you've been involved in drug research, which is pharmaceutical trials, and there's a very stringent set of rules
Mm.
around how the phases are done in a trial for testing drugs. And we do trials in Atlantia in nutraceuticals and medical devices, which is not as stringent as drugs, but still following the same pathway. So, how important is so from a testing point of view? Maybe explain a bit about what you do on a daily basis for the research that we do.
Okay, so with the research as well, that also is like as I said, it's like on a spectrum. So there's like
Yeah.
the anecdotes, obviously the personal stories, and then there's different types of trials. So different levels with the randomized control trials where
Mm.
um, they minimize bias. So that would be like at the far end of the spectrum where that's more reliable, accurate results. So that's what we get involved with.
Yeah.
So you recruiting participants on the study. It's double blinded where we don't know what the participant is getting. They
Yep.
don't know what they receive. So all the information that we get is not biased. It's not influenced by anything. So then we analyze that data, and obviously the data that you collect from there is more reliable
Mm.
compared to testing it on a few people, so smaller trials,
Yeah.
and also like just personal stories and things like
Right.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I suppose that's important for, okay, for us, it's a commercial venture, but for the person on the street, if you go in a health food shop and you pick up a product and it says clinically validated, I mean, ultimately that's the gold standard, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they've done clinical research like what we do, and there's real scientific evidence.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like when you look at a product, you need to sort of just pause a bit and
Yeah.
read and see what they're saying. Actually, what claim is are they? What are they claiming?
Yeah.
Be on the lookout for things that don't really use what you just said, like reference health or clinical studies.
Mm.
Things that just use vague words. So, like if they just say it boosts something or it supports something,
Yeah.
as opposed to saying this has been proven in a clinical trial. So that's what to look out for. Then other things are just things that sound too good to be true.
Mm. Right.
So
So, yeah, like, I mean, and that's, we should pause there and maybe give that some time. Like,
yeah,
when someone that's not scientific, which is most people, and they're non-medical or not medical, um, yeah, like, so we have to be able to rely as consumers on something, you know. And so anecdotal evidence is okay, we're saying
yeah.
now and again. It's a supporting, it's almost supportive. Clinical evidence being the best. But what else is there? I mean, there's a lot of, you know, cures all, overnight detox, like those kind of massive claims. Obviously, they're not to be believed.
That's the thing. That's like a red flag,
Yeah.
actually. So if you see something that says one cure for everything or instant results,
Yeah.
those are red flags because a claim like that, you need, like if it's such a big claim, then you need big evidence,
Yeah.
strong evidence for that. So that would be things that I'd say you must look out for. Then, yeah, just the absolute language, really, that's a problem. But also sometimes the other thing is it's not always like it's not people don't like it's not like people are deliberately lying
Yeah.
or yeah, so
Yeah.
that's not really what it's not that's what not what misinformation is. It could be just outdated information. So things that used to be done or guidelines that used to be followed have just been replaced by as new evidence emerges.
Yes.
Yeah, or even just in the era of social media, an influencer who's got a collaboration with a company who
Hmm.
just they are well intentioned
Yeah.
and they are supplying information, but that's not really backed by the evidence.
Yeah.
So those are the kind of the issues. So that's why I'm saying just look at the language that's being used, and then the red flags, like things that you just mentioned. So
Mm.
yeah, if it sounds too good to be true, it's too good to be true.
Snake oil is called. So, yeah. Um, I suppose then should we rely on mixed source of information? You know, so influencers, I suppose they have a place. I mean, they bring things to light and they bring it to the
Mm,
public attention. Podcasts are there, and and while there might be a commercial slant to those, they're still credible depending on where the actual information comes from. But, like, I suppose, is it fair to say we should be looking at all information together, and if it's all kind of saying the same thing, then it's generalistically most likely going to be real?
yeah, I think that's a good point. Obviously, if everybody's saying the same thing,
Yeah.
more likely than not that it's actually true. But then also just as you say, the sources. So even if it is a podcast, but who's actually relaying the
Yeah. Yeah.
information?
Yeah.
Like who's the expert that they have that's relaying the information, and what is it based on? Is there evidence for it that's supporting
Yeah.
that claim? So it's just to look at that, and then social media is not all bad. I mean,
Mm.
it's we need like fast pace to relay the information quickly to get it to everyone. It's
Yeah.
good, so it can be good. It just depends on, as I say, who's actually providing the information or where are they getting it from. If it is an influencer, um like their sources, what are they listing as, where did they find this information that you need to
And
look
do
at.
they list sources? Like, often there's no source, and I'm just thinking, like, nowadays, from a branding perspective, influencers and anecdotal evidence has a huge power. I mean, people believe it, and they believe it without any source. If 100 people are saying, "My God, it's like I was 25 years younger. I went to bed yesterday, and I got up this morning, and I'm like 20 years younger." People just latch onto that because that's what they want and they start believing it. I don't remember any sources being quoted anywhere.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Everything you need to sort of take it with a pinch of salt because
Right. So it's
it's
your
exactly
own.
what we were saying. That
Yeah.
it's anecdotal evidence. Like
Mm,
it's testimonials, it's personal stories, but there's no evidence backing that up. They haven't
yeah.
said, oh yeah, there was a clinical trial that was conducted and they've confirmed that this actually works. So even if it is on social media, you
Yeah.
need to sort of know what like where is the information coming from.
Which is a fair point. I mean, so we're talking then not just supplements, we're also talking about medicine, which is much more
Yeah.
serious. And like people, some people don't believe, let's say in vaccines,
Mm.
there's people that do not believe in vaccines and those that do believe in vaccines and really you look at the science, make up your own mind. But in terms of medicines, you know, misinformation is much more dangerous in the
Yeah.
medical field, I'm assuming, than it is in supplements. It's not going to kill you.
No, it is very like yeah, it's very important. I know working in GP practice, you know, you get very familiar with Dr. Google.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, yeah.
so yeah,
He's everyone's doctor.
so yeah,
She,
so
he or she, she.
there's a lot of people come with a lot of self-diagnosis,
Right.
AI now as well. Yeah, so social media as well. So the thing is, they're not necessarily wrong. Those platforms or those tools, they're not giving out wrong information. The problem is it's very generalized. First of all,
Mm.
medicine is very like personalized to the individual. Like a healthcare professional, if I get a patient, I need to look at assess their age,
Mm.
their risk factors, their medical history, medications that they're taking. All of that combined leads to like a proper, accurate diagnosis.
Yeah.
So that's what's lacking. The broader like context
Yeah.
is what's lacking when you put in symptoms on a symptom checker,
Yeah.
when you Google something, because that context is what's missing.
Yes. And I think that's a huge source of misinformation right now.
Yeah.
Like I know I've done it. I mean, you put it in, and it's always the worst case scenario.
Of course.
Sensationalized
It's
to the
always,
hilt, you know.
yeah,
Oh my God, you've cancer for sure, for sure. Pain in my ear, you definitely have cancer.
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, but on a serious note, yeah, because if you put in a symptom like a cough,
Hmm.
a cough can be something serious, like a persistent cough for months can be something serious, but it also could be something very simple, like a side effect to a common like BP medication, like
Okay.
ACE inhibitors can cause cough as a side effect.
All right.
So I mean, healthcare professional can look at the entire context, look at what medication you're on, what are the possibilities that you're not going to have AI looking,
Yeah.
at that. So that's why it's possibilities. So it does list out the possibilities, but that personalized context is what matters, and that's why it can't really replace um, professional clinical judgment.
It's a good point, actually. Yeah, because I mean, so there is the whole list of potential symptomologies with all
Mm.
drugs, but sure, we don't. I don't know. When I say we, I mean me. I don't read them. I skim them. But yeah, so then other symptoms that could be related to a medication that nobody thinks about, but
Yeah.
so you go off and research that, and you definitely have cancer until you go to your doctor, in which case it's not. And so it's undue stress, but it's also then you're propagating this misinformation, or one tends to propagate misinformation. So very often, then there is a lot of misinformation in the world today. I believe in it, and I've said that time and again, both in supplements, both in foods, both in lifestyles, both in everything, and medications now as well. What should we be looking for? Like, so what's a pragmatic approach to your health from a medicinal point of view?
That's a good question. It's not like there's not a clear answer though. Yeah,
Right.
because obviously, as I said, medicine is very, like personalized.
Yeah.
But I think a good general guide is any symptom that's sort of worsening,
Yeah.
anything that is persistent, something that's like very unusually severe,
Okay.
like a headache that's just unusually severe, um, anything that yeah is affecting your daily activities.
Yeah.
So those are things that you should actually get checked out. And then there's the normal, like that is always advice that's being given, like your annual checks. So things like your blood pressure, glucose,
Yeah.
cholesterol, so things like that that you should be keeping an eye on.
Mm.
Because obviously those are just like silent killers. You don't know what's going on until you check it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then it's too late. Yeah.
And also it's causing complications in the body, which you don't want to find out too late.
Right.
So things like that that you just need to keep an eye on. And then the self checks.
Yeah.
Yeah, so things that you can check yourself, like for women, you can check your breasts,
Mm.
Men check for the testicles, yeah, just for any lumps, any abnormal lumps, and
Yeah,
then you can
and that's very
also that.
important as well. So, like in this new era, let's call it. So I don't know, is it medicine 3.0? But there's no taboo subject in medicine anymore. Many people I know in Ireland, many men especially, suffered and died of diseases because they were, too embarrassed to talk about them. Whereas, like today, it seems everything's on the table. There's no, and nor should there be. Bodies are bodies, and that's it. So, like, that's a good point. Self check, but you know, um, um, scheduled checks with your doctor are really
Yeah,
important. So, because we'll say blood pressure, I think there's a lot of people. I know I have done it or had done it in the past, and I know people who've done it who try to manage blood pressure with foods,
yeah,
and that is, I won't say it's a fool's errand, but like you won't be able to do it. Medicine, you will need medicine eventually. We work in nutraceuticals. We know that for conditions like elevated cholesterol, elevated blood pressure, nutraceuticals they might stretch the treatment period, so you might need drugs until 5 years time, but you will eventually probably end up on a medication, and there's no harm. So
yeah,
what I'm trying to get at is there seems to be this fear about being on medication for life, for
yeah.
long periods or lifelong medication. I mean, is that justified?
Um, the first point there is a place for diet
Yeah.
in treating like conditions like high blood pressure, high cholesterol. Even with the doctor, if depending on the level, though, that's where
Yeah. Okay.
the context matters.
Right.
So if your blood pressure is not extremely high, where it's dangerously high, yes, you can start off with just managing with diet,
Yeah.
but you need to keep an eye on that. You need to be monitored to see, is it actually working? Are we making a difference? If it is going into dangerous territory, then you need medication. There's no diet that's going to
Yeah.
solve that. So it just depends. That's why you need the professional clinical judgment.
Right.
Um, then, having said that as well, yeah, you're right. Like, especially when it comes to people, like men generally, I think just
Oh, go on. You can say
tend
it. Go on.
to
You can say it.
tend to not want to seek medical attention.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then there is this fear of just being on lifelong medication.
Hmm.
But like medicine evolves and it's always evolving, and even like other common conditions where people were taking like long lists of medications, things are now combined into like you'd find that one tablet is actually made up of three active ingredients.
Okay.
So it's getting things are they're improving, and then there's always the doctor who monitors to see, is this, can we maybe take you off something?
Yeah.
Can we reduce the pill burden as well?
Okay.
So it's not really. I don't think it's. I understand the fear,
Hmm.
but at the end of the day, it's it's just putting. Yeah, as you say, it's just it's inevitable that
Yeah.
if your blood pressure is not controlled, you are going to need medication, and the longer you live it off, the longer you leaving it for complications to arise.
Yeah. Like
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
likely justified if you're on a medication
yeah.
because it's prescribed by a doctor.
Yeah,
So
I don't think there's any doctor who would prescribe a medication that is not required. So as
Yeah.
I say, just depending on the level, they might see, okay, maybe there is a place for a diet here,
Yeah.
dietary changes or lifestyle changes. And then, but definitely there is a point where you can say, okay, no, this is not working.
Hmm.
And then we can use it in combination. Yes, of course, continue, but you need the medication.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I suppose, and I don't know the answer, but like, why is this fear? Why does it exist at all? Of this, like, oh, I don't want to be on cholesterol tablets my whole life. Why not? I mean, is it a fear of liver damage? Is it a fear of, I don't know what the fear is, but and I think it's something that should be maybe talked about more. Is it's okay to be on long term medication?
Yeah, maybe misinformation as well sort of
Yeah,
adds to that,
yeah,
because then people have relatives, it's the anecdote,
yeah,
who were on
yeah,
medication, then they develop these complications, and you hear one story, and then it's like, okay, actually, cholesterol tablets are bad. They do
yeah.
this to you. So that's the issue with misinformation.
Right.
That then people, they either delay or don't want to take medications that actually for treatable conditions.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's.
and that gets into more complex medicine
Mhm.
later on. So yeah, yeah, that's good. I mean, I think that's a real thing. So the evolution of the conversation is definitely that we we sometimes need medication, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
You know, and check the source, make sure it's credible. Always check your sources in terms of what you're if it's going to make a change in your life and you're making a change based on what you've heard, make sure the source is credible
Yeah,
behind that.
definitely. Yeah, don't make health decisions just on a whim. Like, just pause and just be a bit more curious.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah.
And I know personally, I don't really do that. And I think we should do that more is, have a think about where all this information is. Because there's so much information coming at us now, from every angle in our lives between lifestyle, what we should do, what we shouldn't do, what we should eat, what we shouldn't eat. And medicine is just part of that whole mass confusion. Excuse me. So you said there that medicine evolved, which is a good point. Like another thing we don't think about is medicine is getting better.
Yeah.
I feel healthcare I know there's problems with healthcare in every society. I'm sure you're well aware of the healthcare problems here, but there's healthcare problems in the UK, the US.
Everywhere.
It's all
Yeah.
different problems, but managing medicine is a big job. In terms of like, let's talk about lifelong conditions and medications. I mean, would you say that medicine is really good now? I mean, it's that the drugs that we take because what I'm getting at is I find there's also a bit of a mistrust around the pharma companies. They're
Mm.
out to get you. They're out to make money. The cure for cancer is on the shelf, and they just won't release it because they wouldn't make any money. Like, where's the truth here?
Yeah, there is a lot of mistrust.
Mm.
I think we saw a lot of that especially with COVID.
Yeah,
Yeah, that came up a lot. But obviously there is funding that's required. There is a commercial interest into it. But at the end of the day, like when it comes to clinical studies and what we do,
mm,
there's lots of like stringent guidelines, ethics that you need to follow to be able to run like trials.
yeah,
And so at the end of the day, like the medications that are coming out of that um, are like based on safety
yeah,
first. Like, yeah, that's what's prioritized.
yes,
Patient safety, and it always trumps science or trumps any benefit of the pharmaceutical company. So, you can't just say, oh, I've got this drug that I want to investigate and I want it on the market. What science question are you answering? Is
yes,
it beneficial for society that this question is answered? Do we have any information available already on this topic? So when you're doing this study, what are you adding? What's the benefit of doing it? What's additional information
yeah,
are we getting from it?
yeah,
And then even for the medications to pass, trials take years. Clinical
yeah.
trials take a lot
Years,
of
yeah, a
years.
long time.
There's lots of um, processes that they have to go through, the trials, different phases of trials before ultimately they reach the market.
Yeah,
So when the medication is available and it has been tested, I think people should feel a bit more reassured
right.
to so know that it has gone through that process.
Yeah,
And that's why when you see something that is validated to say that it has been through a clinical trial, it should be reassuring. And yeah, you should more likely take it.
yeah,
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 and use
yeah,
it. Yeah.
yeah. And that's a good point. So yes, the level of validation is such now that
Mm.
it is very safe. If it hits the market,
Mm.
there's an awful lot of control under government,
Yeah.
um, European Medicines Agency in Europe. They don't let stuff on market easily. You really have to
Yeah, and then there's
prove.
also like, I mean, post-market surveillance.
Yeah,
So even once it's out in the market, there's also like, they're monitoring for any reported side effects,
yeah,
adverse events, things like that. And then if there is, things are always recalled.
yeah,
Sometimes if
mhm,
there's any issues that they can see, okay, there's a trend tag here. So there's really like a lot of safety around clinical research,
yeah,
which might not have been the issue, like all the sort of the status quo back in the days. But currently,
5 years
as
ago.
medicine evolves, yeah, that's sort of like, yeah, there's a lot of the emphasis is on patient safety or
Yeah,
the public safety. Yeah.
important point. That's an important point. Like drugs that are out there now have been through this rigid, rigorous
Mm.
testing system, but also what we can learn, the physiology. We have better tools to look at
Yeah.
physiology and how it's affecting the body. So those that are making the market are better yet again
Yeah.
than they used to be. I'll give an example. Uh, diabetes.
Mhm.
Insulin used to be quite blunt, I think, maybe 20, 25 years ago, having known diabetics that were on type 1. And now it's very precise and much purer and it works better and it's easier to administer. And so, like, things are constantly evolving. Um, I had a point there. So, in terms of then, like, even in foods, an E number, people go, oh, look at all the E numbers and that, I'm not eating that. But an
Mm.
E number takes a huge amount of research to get a number assigned
Yeah.
by EFSA, the European Food Safety Authority. So, it's not always bad. And you can't mistrust medicine because medicine is there to keep you alive. And so, this misinformation that trickles back through from anecdotal, from word of mouth, back into social media. But then, to the point you were making, we will see sometimes, you'll see in a magazine or a newspaper, researchers have found a cure for pancreatic cancer. I was reading recently that they've had astonishing results, right? Which is probably true. But that's only one piece of research. That has to go through all of what you just talked about
Yeah.
before it comes on market. And it may fail at any point for one reason or another, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, with every system, there's always like, there's nothing that's perfect,
Yeah.
obviously. And then sometimes early results get people
And
very
that's
excited.
right. So the
Yeah.
cure for cancer is there,
Yeah.
but
It's
really,
like, yeah.
maybe it was in a small research project, but it didn't make it to market because it didn't work for.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So exactly what we were talking about earlier, like the quality of the studies.
Yeah.
So obviously, if you test a small group of people and you see some positive results, it's good. It's like, it's signaling, okay, maybe there is something here.
Right.
But
Yeah.
let's look at it more, like let's explore more.
Yeah.
And then larger trials, efficacy trials. So then you move along that whole different types of studies, different
Yeah.
steps of the studies. So if you read something, yes, it might be true if the source is accurate
Yeah.
and like it's in but then also just remember that it might be early results. It needs to, be checked. And there still needs to be more done in that.
Yes. And I think that's really good. I think we've squared that out in that, medicine is to be trusted. There's a lot of gates and checks in place to make sure that you're safe. But that is not the case with social media information. It's not the case with, you know, cheap magazines and newspapers that are, of course, going to sensationalize because that's what
Yeah.
sells. And so it's important to check. Don't trust your gut always because you can be wrong. You can be very wrong.
I think, when it comes to like health decisions and anything that you put into your body, just always just pause
Yeah.
and don't just take anybody's word. Like it's easy to see a post or but they're just trying to get views. Remember, there's so they're gonna put out the most sensational thing that they're gonna say. Oh yeah, like doctors don't want you to know this. Because so obviously you're like, okay, yeah, maybe doctors don't want us to know this. No,
Because it's bad. Because they don't want you
because
to
it's
do
not
it.
actually.
Yeah.
That's the thing. So just be careful. Be careful what you look at,
Yeah.
and then always just where is it coming from? Like that's
Ancient secrets.
that's
Ancient
the thing.
secrets, kept secret for millions of years. Yeah, those kind of things are rubbish, predominantly rubbish. Yeah.
I'll just say there's no evidence supporting that.
Oh, how
Oh yeah.
politically correct of you. Okay, so good. So we'll just run back on a recap then.
Mm.
So, like, because people, I feel the general public, we've said, they approach information, it's fed to them. And if you feed enough information, people start to believe it because there's so much. And so, do you want to synopsize?
I think just to that point, just remember that there's like algorithms with these things as well.
Yeah.
Like so, if you watch, especially like things like TikTok, if you watch a certain type of video and you watch the whole video, they already then only start seeing that. That's all they're going to show to you
Yeah.
because they see, okay, you're interested in it. So then that's how the algorithm works. Then you start only seeing that. Then you're thinking, oh, okay, then maybe this is actually true because that's all I see. Everyone is saying that. It's not everyone. It's just because you being fed
Yes.
that because that's what you've shown that you're interested in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if I start looking at what did you call it? Snake oil.
Snake oil.
And
Snake oil. You haven't heard
and
of it?
then so then I'm gonna see a lot of it.
Yeah,
It's just
you
because
are.
that's how the algorithm
Yes.
works.
Yeah. So, okay, that's one.
Yeah.
Trust or check the source. Trust medicine. Trust doctors. Can we trust doctors?
Please
Of course
trust
we can trust
doctors.
doctors. Yes,
Yeah.
but there's people like, oh, I don't know, could you trust a doctor? Trust the drug companies. Yes, they're companies, but what they put out, they have brands, they have reputation, to, that they have to protect at all costs. So what
Yeah.
they put out is really good stuff. Mistakes. Let's talk about mistakes. In the synopsis, mistakes are made sometimes in research. Things hit the market. There is a side effect in the post-market
Yeah.
law, you know, um, but they're recalled. So recalls are not necessarily bad either. They're catching things before they escalate even further. So
Yeah, so a recall doesn't mean that the product or whatever was wrong to have been put out. It means that they've identified something like a
mm,
potential safety issue, and rather than risking it to become more severe or more complicated, let's recall and do more tests. Let's see.
yeah,
So even if in terms of medications as well, so if we can see that okay, there's people that are all developing a certain adverse event that wasn't maybe listed before,
yeah,
then for safety, it's like okay, let's stop everyone using this. Let's go back and look at the
and
data,
maybe
and
reformulate,
yeah,
right?
and
Yeah,
maybe change something, or yeah,
yeah,
so that it's actually good if they are, because then they're picking up anything that's coming out after the studies.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so trust medicine, trust doctors, and then I suppose things that you can do yourself are check your information, but self-checking.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Check your information, self-checking, and then also just, I mean, even if you go to see a doctor, you can always get a second opinion.
yeah,
So if you go to see a doctor, you can get a second opinion. In the same way, if you look at something and you read something on social media, it's like check somewhere else.
yeah.
Get another source.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
So it's just because you
Common
need, yeah,
sense.
it's just to
Yeah,
double check everything.
yeah,
And then things that you can do yourself, as we discussed. Yeah, just your annual checks. And then just remember things that are just like common sense. For example, things like the detox teas. Um, like the body already detoxes itself.
right.
You've got your liver, your kidneys. There's no really like evidence supporting things like that. So just always be like, a bit, not to be skeptical of everything,
Mm,
but just to be a bit more curious. Like, just to be, okay,
yeah,
let me see. Okay, I hear that, but let me see what else, who, someone else, what are they saying? Or where is this coming from? Who is saying this? Yeah, just
okay.
those kind of things.
I mean, if it doesn't damage you, it's fine to take. If you like it, you can drink it. It's just manage the expectation, maybe.
Yeah, but also having said that, just remember, not even things that are natural
Mm,
also have side effects. Like it doesn't mean just because something is natural is safe.
yeah,
So,
that's a fair point. Yeah,
yeah. So maybe I wouldn't say take it if it's not harming you because you don't know.
yeah,
That's the problem. Like yeah, you're not sure because there's no trials, there's no evidence into it and looking into it,
yeah,
especially with like supplement herbs and things like that. Yeah.
yeah. And that is a kind of a gray space area in herbs because if you're the dosing is very important.
Mm.
Yeah, how pure the herb is and where it comes from. So there is a lot of that. Um, okay, so like to finish,
Mm.
coffee's good for you. Oh my God, coffee's bad for you. Oh, you should drink 2 cups a day. Oh, don't drink any. It's full of this, full of that. And then people are like, what'll I do? I'm confused. Should I drink coffee or not? So, because there's a lot of those types of like,
Yeah.
don't drink tea, don't take multivitamins. They're bad, they're good, they're useless, they're whatever. How do we make decisions in a sea of information? How should we make decisions?
Okay, so understand first of all that like medicine and evidence and data it all evolves. So what we might have believed to be true like I don't know 2 years ago, maybe there've been like more information that's been looked at, and then that's why that guideline has changed.
Okay.
Or so that's the one thing that could be causing. That's why things change and people say, okay, you must use it. Maybe don't use it. And then just as we've mentioned, just to the sources, credible sources,
Yeah,
really,
yeah,
yeah,
I suppose.
where you getting it from,
Yeah, it
yeah.
keeps coming back to
It
sources.
keeps coming back to
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
really, yeah.
yeah,
And then, as I said, just things that you need to be looking out for are those red flags.
yeah,
Yeah. So anything that sounds too good to be true, and just vague language and no mention of any clinical studies. Yeah.
right. Yeah.
So
Most of which will be online.
yeah, most of it's online, but also even on products, they will say if it has been like they'll say if it's like if they just use a vague term like supports or something like that, or
Mm.
they say um, clinical studies are conducted or something like that. So yeah, you then
Yeah, because there's a whole set of language that we won't
mm,
get into now, but around claims with like, you're allowed to say may support, and may contribute to, and it may or it may not.
Yeah.
But there has been some testing done, as opposed to a pure health claim, in which case you have to do an awful lot of testing to make an actual straight up health claim. So, yeah. Okay. So I think we've captured it in terms of what to do with information, when to listen, when to not listen, and when to use pragmatic common sense, and of course, trust your doctor.
Yeah, and they just remember that these are all tools, even
Mm.
AI, social media. You can look at it, it's all possible, but also it mustn't replace clinical, like professional clinical judgment.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, that's the message that, yeah. So it's not that everything is bad.
Mm.
Just be a bit more curious, and then also remember that all these tools are just tools.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
shouldn't be
They help.
replacing.
They're
Yeah,
not. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
they shouldn't be diagnosing
Yeah.
conditions.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. I hope people found that interesting. So thank you to everyone who's listening. Remember to like and share. The more we share, the more we're likely to be back here with further episodes. So, Nontokozo, thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.